Well, here we are with the absolute king of cool, the guy who I've always wanted to be all my life, the one and only Burt Bacharach. How you doing, man?
Feeling okay. That's a nice intro. Thank you very much.
You are everything. You are everything. You're everything that every cool man wants to be. That is Burt. I got to ask you something. I grew up in New Jersey, Burt, and my grandfather had a record label at the time called Savoy Records.
Very well known by me, yes.
Now, here's what I wanted to ask you. When I hear your style in the beginning, I hear those Dizzy Gillespie records, man. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the influence of what was going on and how you took that great jazz sound and brought it into pop. Am I crazy or what?
No, you're not crazy at all on that, because I think very influenced by what was going on in bebop. Dizzy, listen, when I did The Tonight Show in New York, substituting for Carson, they asked me who my guest would be, who I would like my guest to be. I said, Bill Shoemaker, the jockey, right?
Yeah.
Mac Davis, James Brown, and Dizzy Gillespie.
Wow.
And I got to meet Dizzy that way.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So how did jazz influence what you were putting together in the beginning?
Well, I was very influenced by jazz. Spent a lot of time on 52nd Street.
Right.
In those clubs, lying about my status, how old I was to get into those clubs.
Yeah.
Spotlight Club, you know, was one place I loved. More people may like the Tad Dameron band would be on stage. There'd be more people in the band than there were in the audience.
Yeah, sure. Right. All right, so let's talk here on public television. For me, you know, it's been 30 years of making all these specials that tribute all the artists of the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And when we first did a 50s pop show, this is where we brought out Phyllis McGuire and her sisters, and we had Patti Page, and you know, we had all the great artists of that 50s pop era. We called the show, also because there's a Pittsburgh connection, Magic Moments with the fantastic Mr. C.
Yeah.
Tell me about that record, because man, you just captured a time in life that is so perfect.
Well, Patti Page actually was the first song. First song I ever got recorded was by Patti Page. Don't quite remember the name of the song, but it was great to have her recorded. Magic Moments, Perry Como. Wow, that was a big moment because that was a big artist, and it turned out to be a big song. And my first major hit, really.
When you were involved with that record, do you remember what you were trying to go for in putting it together?
Trying to make a hit, just basically trying to make a hit.
Right. You're just trying to make a hit and then do some more.
Yeah.
Because I think of those days, I think of Marty Robbins.
Yeah, Story of My Life. That was my second hit, too. Yeah.
Here we are celebrating all the great music, Burt, that you've brought us here on public television, and we can't thank you enough for being part of this. And the audience at home, you know, we say, can you support public television? Because that's really the only way we can do shows like this. What do you think as someone who watches public television?
Hats off to it. Very, very needed to have that happen. To be a supporter of PBS is downright essential. Got to keep them afloat and keep them solvent. So I'm grateful for the attention PBS has given me and given other people, other composers, other artists, other musicians.
Okay, so let's move a little bit forward. How did you start getting involved with that girl from the Oranges, that incredible singer?
That's very good. Well, I was doing a song helping Lee Stoller, song that I wrote with Bob Hilliard called Mexican Divorce.
Yes. Yeah, the Drifters cut that one, yeah.
Right. And they wanted to use background singers. The four girls from New Jersey came in to sing for me and audition for me. And you had in that group Cissy Houston, Myrna Smith, I think was her name, Dee Dee Warwick, Dion's sister, and Dionne Warwick herself. So they were great. And we rehearsed for about 5-6 days because I believed in getting them as ready to go into the studio as they could be. And they were amazing. You know, they were all singing gospel.
Yeah.
They're coming out of church, basically.
The Drunkard Sisters, yeah.
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 But there was something about Dionne, and kind of singled her out, the way she looked, the way she carried herself, who she might be, who she really was, how old was she? She was a pretty thing. She was. Carried herself very well. So Al David and I brought Dionne into our little room in the Bro building. A couple of weeks later, to sing for us. And she was really good. And she became good, even better. She became terrific. And the more that we did with Dionne, the more I realized she was capable of doing things, being these huge leaps she'd have to make in the middle of a song, going upwards and then come into a very enclosed, very intimate sound. And she was capable of it all, you know, and the more we could do, the more we could get away with, the more chances we could. Now, the big one for preparation, always get those girls in, teach them the song, like anyone had a heart.
Yeah, God, breaks your heart.
And work with them. Big believer, when you go into the studio, be prepared. None of that, well, we'll fix it in the studio, we'll fix it all when we're on the floor. But we don't have that kind of money.
Yeah, yeah.
The record company would say to fool around on the floor. So I was a big believer in let's getting it right on the floor.
So you had, I think, something that not a lot of people in your position had, and that is you were able to not only cross over from R&B to pop, but you were also able to create songs that a kid could relate to who was going through their first heartbreak, or standing up to a guy saying, look, I'm done with you, walk on, just walk on by, walk forward. Or you could have that same feeling with the young adults of the time. How did you accomplish all that and the feeling of what you were putting together?
Well, you've got to say a lot. I mean, you can't say enough about how David wrote great lyrics. And we started, not as a team, wrote a song. I'd write, whoever he was writing with, I would write after Hal got through with them, and we'd all be in the Brill building trading partners, writing songs, see what clicked, what got published, what didn't get published, what got turned down. Those are hard days. You go from floor to floor, getting a lot of rejection. Not a happy feeling. I remember one time we took a song to a publisher, the Goldie Goldmark, and a song I'd written with Bob Hilliard, and we took it in and played it for Goldie, and Goldie said, "I don't see it, I don't hear it," and Bob Hilliard said to Goldie, "Lie to me, lie to me."
So would you call, it's been called a triad marriage. Does that seem fair to you, the three of you together?
That one time when we were all together, yes. And then there was a separation where we weren't together. That was much later on. But we had a great run. Initially, a great, great run. And wrote a lot of songs I'm very proud of. Dion was singing top of her game.
All right, so let's move a little bit forward into the 60s. And I guess we're still talking Scepter here in Florence with B.J. Thomas.
I always liked B.J. I like the label. I like Scepter. I like working with Florence. I didn't know we were always getting paid the money that we were supposed to get,
Yeah.
Florence. But it was all very compatible, and friendly, and sort of like a large or small, large, corrupt company in a way. But they understood music. Florence loved music. And with B.J. Thomas, I always liked B.J. He had, I think, recorded a couple of my songs, but we had moved on now, and I was scoring the film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And working with George Roy Hill, who was the director, I had a way where I was a little terrified of George Roy Hill because when I went in to audition for him, he was playing Bach on the piano. When you got a director who can play the piano and play the classics like playing Bach, and good. And so I scored the film. I was very happy the way the film turned out. Everybody else seemed happy. Now we needed a singer for the bicycle sequence. So we got in touch with a guy, I cannot remember his name. He's from the South. It was very hot at the time. He kind of was sang with a sense of humor. He did some humorous songs, kind of made you chuckle. He'd be a likely choice. So we brought him out to California to see the film and hear the song. And he didn't like the film. You say, what? He didn't like the film? No, he did not like the film. He heard the song. He didn't like the song. So he went home. And we had to look for a singer. First went to B.J. Thomas. He was on a label. He's on a label that we could work with. the scepter, could show them the film. They loved it. And BJ, I could work with BJ, teach him the song, and get him comfortable with it. And this is what we did. Got him in the studio in New York at A&R with Phil Ramone Engineering. And we did BJ singing Raindrops. And he was very comfortable. He was very comfortable. He was there. I mean, present. He knew the song. He did it. And it was one thing being in the studio. Where's the comfortability with knowing Phil Ramone and the musicians and getting it that way? So we now have the song recorded. It's going to be on Scepter. And now we have to put BJ in the film. So we bring him out to California. And it's a different set of rules now. You've got a big orchestra on a sound stage. And he's going to sing with a lot of musicians that he doesn't know. I mean, I could get into BJ's head and say, that is a terrifying moment on a sound stage, running to film, doing. So it was, and he came through, man. He was nervous as hell, but he came through, and he came through great.
And he had a cold. When he did the film, he had a little bit of a raspy cold in his voice, which is why the film version was different from the recording.
Things I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I was just so happy that we got a great vocal.
Yeah.
Happy that we got a singer to sing it who loved the song instead of saying, I'm going back to Nashville. I don't want any part of this picture or this song. And BJ came through. And he was a nervous wreck on a sound stage, which is terrifying when you're in, a sound stage at a 20th century. But as I say, he came through, delivered the goods, was just about perfect.
Now, let me ask you, Burt, a couple of, well, first of all, with respect to BJ, when you lose someone, and so many of your friends that you've worked with over the years, you've lost. How do you view that? How do you take that? How do you deal with that?
I wish I had called BJ when it was all going down. I don't know where I was musically, where I was my career, but knew he was sick. But I wanted to, my mistake, I would have reached out to at least talk to him on the phone. I should have. Absolutely should have.
When you talk about sound stages, I have this image in my head of you playing all these great shows at the BBC in England and how they loved you. And then I think of the time that you spent with probably the sexiest song ever laid down to wax, which is, of course, Dusty and the Look of Love. My God, Burt, what was going on in your head?
Well, actually, I was scoring the film Casino Royale.
Yep.
I was scoring the film, and I was thinking, looking at one sequence. I was married to Angie at the time, Angie Dickinson. And she was in the next room, and on my moviola, I kept running this one sequence with Ursula Andress.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm working with this melody. I'm hearing it with a kind of Brazilian feeling. And I think this is kind of, this is shaping into a song. Hal writes a lyric, The Look of Love. We get Dusty to record it. I love Dusty. She was a friend. So we go to the studio and it's treated just like a small Brazilian band. Guitar, bass, drums, saxophone. Very hard on herself, Dusty, always was. It was always interesting to be in that situation that night where we did record Dusty on The Look of Love. And she would listen to a playback. She would not listen to a playback in the control room that I was in. She'd have to have another control room that she would listen to the playback, like down the hall. I thought the vocal was great, but she was very hard on herself. And she wanted to do another take and didn't want anybody in the room to hear it beside her. Anyway, we got it. And it turned into this very big hit. So, and again, a great lyric from Hal David, you know.
Yeah, but when I think of so many of your songs, the thing that pops out to me in that particular song, Burt, is that sax solo. I mean, there is nothing like that sax solo to make a young boy into a man.
Well, that's going back to Stan Getz' time, you know. I mean,
Sure.
That's really going back to early Brazilian pop records. And with Stan Getz playing. So it wasn't a copy. It just was an alto sax, not a tenor. And it was very sensual and very sexy. And who knew? You never know. You record something and with the best of intentions that it's going to turn into something significant, and it did.
Boy, did it. Okay, very quickly, I got to ask you about our friend Chuck Jackson, also on Scepter.
Yeah. Love Chuck. Great singer.
Soul Brother #1 is what we call him.
Great guy, too. Another great guy. I like people that are really nice people, too, that could sing. How about them for having a parlay? You sing well, you feel the song, you got sensitivity, and you're a really nice person. Not everybody was. Right?
Gene McDaniels, with that angst in his voice, that a tower of strength is something I'll never be. A guy who only liked jazz and hated the fact that he had to do pop records, but he did them because he loved you and respected you.
Well, I'm glad he did it. You know, I came out for the recording because he did it in California, and I was in New York at the time. I came out, and Snuffy Garrett was producing him. And I thought the tempo was too fast, and it shows you how wrong you can be. I mean, you can be wrong where everything else about it is right. And I'm glad he did. I know what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a jazz singer.
Yeah. I have to ask you about Gene Pitney, of course.
Another great guy and a great singer and easy to work with, easy to work with. And a magical voice.
Here with the great Burt Bacharach. Got to ask you one more question, Burt, before we go, and that, of course, is about the anthem. That's what Friends are for. And the reunion, and what that was like, coming together for that.
Well, it started with Dion putting a vocal on. And we built on top of that to make it an anthem like for the fight against AIDS. And Elizabeth Taylor came by the studio. She was very friendly with Carol Bayer Sager, who I was married to at the time, and Carol had written the lyric. And all agreed on that night, what if we made this like an anthem song and dedicated and brought whatever proceeds we would get from the sale of the record would go to ANFAR. That was American Foundation for AIDS Research, I believe. And so we started with Dion, and then it was easy to get in Gladys, because Gladys Knight was very close to Dion. Also, she was great, and she's a great singer. One of the very best. So now we got Dion, we got Gladys. We are looking for a third voice, and we call in Stevie. Stevie Wonder comes in, puts his voice on, puts the intro on with harmonica. Now we need the fourth position, the cleanup hitter, like in baseball. And we get Elton John. And he gives us the magic that we needed for that spot. And the record becomes successful. Song is a hit. Raise some money for a very good charity.
Arthur's theme. Got to talk about Arthur's theme.
Scoring that film, didn't know there'd be a song. I just knew I was scoring it, and suddenly just blossomed into, well, let's make a song here. So we did it all mostly in one night. Christopher Cross was there, and Carol Bayer Sager, and myself. Came very quickly. Doesn't mean anything whether it comes quickly. Or a song like Alfie took me 2.5 months to write. So you don't get rewarded for speed. You have to reward yourself with what you think something is deserved. Like Alfie, special song. It could be very special. You work on it and you think, am I giving it every inch of me into understanding these words? And then fighting for it to stay in the film. Do you know who the first person was that recorded Alfie?
No.
Cher.
Huh.
It's okay. I like Cher. Just the wrong person for the wrong film.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I think of all you've given us, Burt, through your talents and through your interpretation of life, you know, that's the key. When I think of every single one of your records, it puts us in a little slice of life as to what we were doing at the time or what life felt like at the time. And thank God for you, Burt Bacharach. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm appreciative of what you're saying. Yes, I'm very glad to be here. I'm glad to still be here and functioning and still writing. Whether I'm writing or not, I'm just to be alive and treasure every day.
The coolest man on earth. There he is, Burt Bacharach. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
And listen, people, support PBS. I mean, it's really an important thing for you to do. They keep things going. They make things very interesting for us. Good to be with you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Burt.